Hello, everybody. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. Today is episode 305, which is somewhat significant because that puts us at 60 shows left to reach our goal of 365 unique entrepreneurs in a row. So today I'm sitting in the sanctuary. I've been back to back with meetings. I'm representing the Capital City Film Festival. Want to give a shout out to thisent.com. And another shout out for James Bignall, who you might know from the huge painting in the Fledge, who helped me find a last minute guest, but not exactly last minute because we have been trying to get Darryl on the show for months. So how you doing today, Darryl?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I am doing great. You know, right before we went to go live, I said I love that shirt that you have on, and just be civil is...
It's a pretty mild request, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'll give a plug for the Civil Life Brewing Company of St. Louis, Missouri, who walks that walk every day. They are.
That's nice because, sometimes kindness is too much to ask from people. So civility, at least we can be the middle ground.
Right, just be nice. You don't have to be kind.
So let's start with where you're at. Where are you?
Well, I'm sitting in my organic flower garden in St. Louis, Missouri suburbs right now. That's where I'm at, but I started off, I'm a Michigan guy. I grew up in Pleasant Ridge, Michigan, the home of Governor James J. Blanchard, went to Ferndale High School, and then went to Michigan State University, got a job working as I don't know what I was, I guess a cellar rat for a Michigan winery. Then I got a job working for a large distributor. Actually, before I got in the wine business, I worked at the Small Planet. That's what really got me into drinking wine. So the owner, Vaughn Schneider, taught me about wine, and I know you worked there. And while I was at Michigan State, I did some research. I worked in the wine lab under Dr. Stanley Howell, and a Michigan winery hired me right out of school, even though I studied literature and wanted to be a professor. So I've been in the wine business since then, 33 years or something. And I moved to St. Louis because I was at a party at the oldest family-owned winery in California called Gunlock Bundschuh, and my future bride was there too. And we met, and 2 years later, we got married by that winemaker, and we've been together 28 years, I think, or something like that. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm in my 23rd year. Our anniversary will be next month. So,
well, I'm sure you owe somebody $5.
I'm sure I do. So I got a ton of things to talk to you about that you and I talked for 30 minutes maybe earlier, and just name after name after name that we all knew, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the Small Planet real quick, because that's interesting to people in Lansing and East Lansing. It's closed now, but I don't know, up until several years ago, it was still open.
Yeah, it became more of a club. When I worked there, was early beginning of the 80s to mid 80s, I guess, and it was a health food restaurant, vegetarian restaurant. Yep. And I took the job because I needed a job, not because I had any compunction about killing animals to eat or anything like that. And over the course of time working there, I became a vegetarian because I ate there. I didn't even realize that I wasn't eating meat because I ate for free at the restaurant. I always got my duty meal every day. And I learned a lot about sustainability and taking care of the earth and things like that, which also I learned about in the wine labs at Michigan State. And it led to a job. I was checking in a farmer one day at the Small Planet, and I just asked him, how come your food isn't cheaper? You're not using chemicals. And he explained to me that, we have to purchase predatory mites instead of, pesticides. And he said, I bought 40 pounds of ladybugs last year just so my watercress wouldn't get eaten up. And he says, it's integrated pest control management. So you fast forward about 4 years, I'm in an interview with the largest organic winery in the United States. And the second question was, what can you tell me about integrated pest control management? And I said to John Fetzer, you mean like good bugs eating bad bugs, man? And he looked back at me and he said, like good bugs eating bad bugs, man. And he goes, I want someone that talks like you out there, that you basically know how to distill things down to the street level. So that led me to working for wineries, and it all had Vaughn not taught me about wine at the Small Planet, or I not asked that right question, just being curious, I was the dollars and cents about it. Why are we paying the same amount of money if you're not using chemicals and all that stuff? So the Small Planet was instrumental in my going forward in life.
My parents went to high school with Vaughn.
Oh,
so I knew the Snyders my whole life. I knew all of the people. So these are, some of my mentors too. I was lucky. I was raised by hippies. I was raised by protesters. I was a vegetarian for over 20 years.
See, I was the opposite. I went away to college and, as the kids would say now, became woke,
Yeah.
I started realizing that maybe my parents weren't as right as they claimed to be.
But I have a different story for you too. I did a lot of work in the organic industry. I had a software company that wrote software for compliance management.
Right.
And my first customer in that industry was the California Certified Organic Farmers out of Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I know.
And you would know them. And they used to take me to wineries all the time to taste a different wine, and we would argue about whether wine could be organic or not. So these are kind of in the early days of the USDA getting involved. And so and it was actually my grandmother and Vaughn taught me a lot about wine. And then I got the organic stuff later on. I never remember talking that much about them. So,
I mean,
go ahead.
That's what happens. You work with somebody that talks to you about why you don't want to put that shit into the soil. You start thinking about it, right? I grew up in Detroit. No one really talked about the soil in Detroit. They talked about building cars, so I didn't think this way until I met Vaughn Schneider. So I don't know if he even realizes what a huge impact he's made on my life. I know his kids do because I'm in contact with his kids.
Yeah. So Kelly, is that right?
Yeah, Kelly and Natalie.
Natalie, I couldn't remember Natalie's name. I knew Kelly because I worked with her. She worked at the Small Planet at the same time I did.
Oh yeah, she was a badass.
Yeah. So let's dig into some other things. You have something in the background I was going to ask you about, but it shifted out of the way. I got a different view here too.
Yeah.
How's that view?
Can you see it?
I can. You want me to come up closer?
No, maybe move my chair out of the way. So
it's falling. It's falling.
It's falling. It's solid. It's a solid oak base. A friend of mine owns a violin shop, and sometimes the little kids just beat the shit out of instruments, and they don't take care of their instrument, and they're not fixable. So I would work for an importer of South American wines and Japanese sake. So I know a lot of restaurants, and I just ask them to save the corks for me, and I do a lot of cork art. But recently I just started to think about what am I going to do with all this stuff. And I decided I'm going to sell it all off with 100% of the proceeds going to the unhoused citizens of St. Louis, because it's really an issue that I care a lot about, is how the richest country in the world has people living on the street, just no roof, no food, no help. So I'm using my art to raise awareness and really buy food for people. So
yeah. What's amazing to me is I've got this huge trash bag of corks that somebody brought to me.
I need them.
Do you need them?
Yeah, I build stuff regularly.
Well, I also have a bunch of instruments that don't work, like guitars that have been taken apart.
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff like that. Yeah. The thing is, both of them are really great raw materials if you think about them, other than what they're used for. Mm-hmm. Every time I open a bottle of wine, I'm like, why would we throw this in a landfill? It's got a great shape to it. It's got a sealing quality. You could use it for noise reduction. You could use, there's so many uses. I'm not like some craft guy. I don't believe in making, I don't make like a bath mat with corks or things like that. And that's cool if people want to do that, but I like the idea to use it as a raw material for art. Yeah. The same thing with the broken instrument. Instruments are beautiful to look at. The shapes are beautiful if you're going to play on the wood, things like that. Instruments really have like this beauty in themselves. So I decided to combine two things that I care about, music and corks.
All right. Sorry, I'm choking on my water.
Yeah.
In the wine industry, are corks going away?
Yes and no. I mean, clearly, it's an environmental issue both for landfills and the trees, but it's also a status issue too. A lot of people just like the idea of cork, and there really hasn't been enough research to show how wines evolve with screw caps or stelvin enclosures, whatever you want to call them. So I think there's people, especially that have expensive products, that don't want to gamble. They know how cork works as a sealer. But I don't know. I think mostly the environmental people, they don't have any choice. You know, if you're going to be organic or you're going to farm sustainably, you know, I represent a couple wineries in South America that their bottles were so heavy because it was a statement, you know, really pretty, felt good to hold, but the carbon footprint to ship them over to the United States, it didn't make sense. And they finally they kept the shape, but they decreased the weight of the glass. So I think that's probably, you can't have it both ways. You can't say you really care about the environment and you use a vessel that puts a larger carbon footprint, you know. So
I love Cabernets, and every time someone gets me one and it's a screw cap or it's what is it, a filler? You said I don't.
Or it's
like rubber or plastic.
They call them composite corks.
Yeah, I'm always like, oh man, I wanted a cork.
Well,
but
maybe you got to look a little higher up on the shelf.
Yeah, probably. Though, what do you want to tell us about wine? What do you want to tell us about sake? Anything like that? I mean,
well, I'll tell you about wine is that I've always, as an adult, I've always liked it. You know, I like the buzz that goes with it. I like the flavor and the range of flavors. I like the art behind it and the science behind it and the farming. And I mean, as far as an industry goes, weekly I'm having conversations about agriculture, about marketing, about flavor, food, the arts, culture, travel. I mean, it's everything. Yeah. I feel like I really lucked out on the business I went into because all the things that I really like, culture, language, art, food, travel, music, it's in my life almost daily, if not daily. So that's the thing about the wine business. People that you won't ever get rich. It's not a business about wealth at the sales side of it, but it is really a lifestyle business. I mean, I eat in places that I probably couldn't afford to eat, and I drink wines that I couldn't afford to drink, and I get an audience with like really famous wine personalities that, had I just been like a restaurateur or someone that's not directly in that business of selling wine, they want to give me the time of day probably. So it's got my foot in the door in so many things. The other thing about wine and sake, there's a lot of charitable activities that I'm involved with. And the first things charities do is they come to me and they say, hey, can you donate some wine or sake? And then they give you the BS line, like, these are all going to be people with expendable income and it's a great audience. That stuff is a bunch of BS. I've never really seen it relate into building a brand or increasing sales, but they're in sales too. Why do you want to do this event? You're being kind and you're doing something, civic minded, but the other side is it's a good business move on your part. And I just never saw that. Now, sake, on the other hand, is the rage. I've sold sake for 18 years in the United States. And in the nascent stages, there weren't restaurants that were catering to Japanese beverage. So sushi, 18 years ago in St. Louis, there was only 5 sushi places within an hour of downtown St. Louis. Now there's over 500. Mm-hmm. So, and sushi's not going away. It's not, we're not talking about black and Cajun food. It's like pizza. It's going to be here for the rest of our lives and our kids' lives. Sushi's not going away. Ramen's not going away. We like noodle soup. Not everybody likes blackened things or, whatever, the tofu this or whatever seems to be trendy. Sake has a good companion. I drink it with non-Asian food all the time. It doesn't have tartaric or tannic acids, so it's really smooth going down. Those are the acids that either dry your mouth out or give you the citrusy notes in wine. They don't have it in sake. But even during the pandemic, my sake business has just been insane. And I'm sure you've seen the news. Getting product out of Asia is a disaster right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been out of stock on a lot of things, and we're carrying more inventory than ever now because who knows how the world is going to change, when it's going to bounce back. But if they can't get computer processors or microchips for the automobile industry, I'm pretty sure the ports don't really care about the $75 million industry in the United States. That's all it is. And so my company is called Vine Connections. We have the best website in the wine and sake business. And you know how easy it is to figure that out. You turn your Google machine on and you say the guy's full of shit, or it's really the best thing I've ever seen. But vineconnections.com is the best website on wine and sake that you can use. And people tell me regularly, like, I can't believe how much sake I'm selling. They can't believe it. And I'm like, well, we believed in it 18 years ago. It just took everyone time to catch up.
Well, Jim said you left a bunch at his house. I don't know if you got rid of it all. Because one of my things with sake is the only time I've ever had sake is when I was drunk enough to order sake.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst thing. Or sake bombs, or you're at Benihana and they're flipping a shrimp into your cup and then they give you some, The only way I look at that warm sake thing, and it's not entirely accurate, but I use it a lot. People say, do you drink your sake warm? And I say, occasionally, because everyone likes a hot toddy, but no one drinks a hot toddy regularly. So, Jim just said it's gone. I just saw
it's all gone.
But like hot sake, it's a nice way to mask poor quality sake. And I always use this example. I don't know anyone that could drink a warm Natty Light, but they could drink a nice cold one in a cooler at the beach, and that's all there is. You'll drink maybe more than one. And the same thing with sake. If it's poor quality sake and you try to drink it cold, all of its ugliness will show up in your mouth. So you heat it up, and it will mask some of the let's say flaws in that flavor. But yes, sake is insane right now.
So I'm gonna go get some and have it in a proper way.
The place you want to go in the Lansing area is in Okemos. Oh man, I'm gonna get killed for this. It's something that maybe Vine and Brew. No, it's
Vine and Brew.
Yeah, the Vine and Brew. Those guys are serious about sake. Tell them I sent you over there.
Okay, I will.
I spent 3 hours with them last time. In Lansing. They are the ones that are the most serious about quality sake in the Lansing area. Horax is getting there though.
Yeah, and I think what's that? I can't think of the sushi place over by Horax.
Is it Maro?
No, Ukai. Ukai.
Yeah.
That's where I've drank most of the sake in my life, is at Ukai.
Well, I'll get over there and get them some better sake if they don't have it.
All right. But I'll go check out the Vine and Brew. So check out Vine and Brew, everybody. You'd actually be helping. Do they buy from you? Yeah,
they buy, and they're really nice guys that run the joint. Really nice guys. They believe in, they're not like closed-minded in the least bit. They believe in a lot of different things, quite passionately.
Okay. Maybe we'll get into some of those in a bit. So, unhoused people, your son's a musician, you're an artist. What else would you like to talk about as we kind of navigate you?
Sure there'll be some people that'll laugh by you calling me an artist. I try to make art.
I see one of your art pieces behind there. That automatically qualifies you.
Yeah, okay. So I lost a son 9 years ago. He was hit and killed by a train. And as you can imagine, and I know your personal story, you find yourself in a hole that you don't think you can get out of. And my therapist said to me that maybe I should stop focusing on what I lost and really understand what I have, and realize that there's a lot of people that don't have what I have. And I used to just donate stuff to, in the wine business, I said earlier, every charity calls you up. Hey, this is a great audience that's going to be there. You're really doing a good cause. And I felt like I was doing my part, like giving back, go stand at a table and pour wine or sake, or donate a couple bottles in a gift basket, things like that, which I still do. But I didn't have any connection to who I was helping. And so I got invited to go work with this group, Tent Mission St. Louis, where we went out and, supplies, hygiene, socks, underwear, coats, toothbrushes, anything like that, tents, tarps, a lot of people living outside. And once I started really realizing that I know these people, they're a lot like my friends. And I know a lot of people that are one paycheck away from being homeless. And I had a brief period where I was homeless in high school or in college. And, it was like 6 weeks of couch surfing, not having any stability. And I really forgot about that. And so once I got out on the street, I really realized that this is important work. And there are people that, that need help, and I'm willing to do it. I'm not looking to be a savior or anything like that, but if I've got it and you need it, or if I don't have it and you need it, I'm the kind of person that's willing to find it for you. So what I did was I have a lot of relationships in restaurants because of my business. So I went to a bunch of restaurants and sent emails and texts and whatnot, and basically told them that, as bad as it is, there's people that are really suffering in our own community, and I'd like you to donate 100 or 150 meals that we can put out on Wednesday. We go out on Wednesday and Saturdays with food, that you could be on my Wednesday list, and then I'll only ask you once a year. I know you get asked a lot by people to donate for different events, and I'll only ask you once, and it's really important work, and 100% of our proceeds go to help the unhoused in our city. And basically that's what's been happening. They go, hey, Darryl, I've had the worst year ever with the pandemic. I had to close a restaurant, or I can't get employees. I'm ready for them to say that, and these are all legitimate things. But as soon as they say it, I go, yeah, I'm sure, I get it. We've had a tough year too, but at least I'm laying in a bed with a roof over my head and thinking about my next plan. And then they generally say something vulgar like, screw you, Darryl, or something like that. But eventually, either in that conversation or 2 or 3 emails later, they're in.
Yeah.
So most people are in right from the beginning, and then they say, I need to talk to my operations person or my general manager or something, figure out what date's the best. And then, they call me back and tell me, or I have to say, hey, last we heard, you were talking to your general manager. I'd still like to get you involved. Well, right now I have everything from like a hot dog store to James Beard winners, it's the highest award in restaurant you can get in the United States. It's the James Beard Award. So I have chefs that have been nominated for that award and chefs that have won that award. And I have pizzerias and barbecue places. And, I just go in and I say, whatever you can do, if you put some lunch meat in a piece of, lettuce on a piece of bread, that's better than nothing. But I generally request some sort of protein and vegetables if possible, because the unhoused, they're used to, just trying to survive, and they eat snacks and they eat a lot of sugar. A lot of the unhoused are addicted to sugar, like the rest of the population. Yeah. So to get things that really taste good, that really have love in them, you can look at that and see some of the stuff we go out there. People are like, wow, look at this. Last week I had a barbecue place that did, the hindquarters of a chicken. So it was like a thigh, a breast, and a leg. And it was just fantastic. He had coleslaw. He had baked beans, cornbread. It didn't feel like here's a cup of soup and your bologna sandwich, which, I'm not here to criticize that. But I like the idea that there's dignity in feeding people with real stuff that they might not be privy to. And I like the idea that these chefs, these aren't their customers, and they know it.
Yeah.
They're not, the people that I do outreach with and for aren't going to eat in these restaurants probably, for the most part. Right. So I like that the only skin they have in the game is that their empathy and that they believe in empathy. And that's what I believe in. And I think that once you get to the point where you put yourself in other people's shoes, that's real evolution. That's really, as far as like where I'm at as a human being, being at 58 years old. I think it took me till I was 57 years old to become truly empathetic. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not terribly proud. I'm not ashamed of it, but I've had experiences that led me there. And so now my goal is to get to people so they don't have to go their whole life and not understanding the importance of empathy and thinking about it.
So real quick, because I know we're going to come back to empathy in a second.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to rewind a little bit and just, we're in the same club, so I'm sorry about your son.
Yeah, thank you.
And I do know the story, and it's still, I don't know why, looking at your face and hearing it hit me in the heart,
Well, because it's a person telling the story on the phone, you don't have that connection, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is, like, I applaud what you're doing with the homeless, or the houseless, or the unhoused.
The unhoused is really more accurate.
Yeah. Did you ever meet Chris Pruitt while you were
the happiest homeless guy?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he came over to see me at our mutual friend James Bignell's home, and it was almost not going to happen. But he's a beautiful human being, that man, and I care a lot about him. I was introduced to him maybe about a year ago or something like that, and we became Facebook friends. And I love what he's doing. I heard the thing on StoryCorps. And it was just a beautiful piece. He's really, that guy knows what's going on. He gets it.
Yeah, I love him. But his signs were the best, man.
His signs are the best. The box that he put on his head.
We had over 100 signs hung around the Fledge in the background behind me for a big art show that he did here, and it was amazing. And he taught me a lot about. I mean, he taught me the term unhoused. He says houseless a lot too.
Yeah. Really, let me just stop you on that. I've been homeless. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have a house to live in, but I wasn't unhoused.
Right. You were on couch to couch.
I would find people that would take care of me until I got my act together or whatever it was. So I am I wouldn't say I'm touchy about homeless. I think unhoused really makes people have gotten comfortable with that phrase homeless. You say unhoused, they're like, or you correct someone when they say, so you work with the homeless? I say, well, that's one way of looking at it. I think I worked with the unhoused more than I do the homeless. And then it sparks the conversation because they don't know what you mean. And when you start saying it to people, when you give an explanation, it leads people to understanding, or dare I say empathy,
Yeah. Well, Chris always used to say, I have a home. I'm at home right now. I'm in Lansing. And this is my home, but I just don't happen to have a house.
Yeah.
So I agree. Destigmatizing that is super important, and all the baggage that we carry around with us. These are human beings with lives, with people that love them, that have ended up here somehow. And the reason I brought up Chris is because he'll do an ice cream social. He'll do a euchre tournament. Yeah. He'll do all these things that restore or help build or give a sliver of dignity back to people that.
He said to me one time, he goes, if you go to a shelter, they're not giving you ice cream. They're giving you, they're giving you like something that has only nutritional value, if that. And he said, but everyone likes ice cream, he says. He goes, he says, and you see it when you give someone that doesn't have anything, you give them an ice cream. He said, like, they act like you just gave them your right arm. Oh my gosh, sure, I want an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah. So I love the work that you're doing there.
Thanks.
We'll get back to empathy, but before that, so like you're an artist, you're also a music mogul, right?
Well, you're really loose with the vocabulary. My son is a pretty profound musician. He was one of the top symphonic musicians in the Midwest as a double bassist, contrabasso, and he was really into that. And actually went to Interlochen in Michigan for a summer with the Juilliard program, and he decided that he didn't want to spend his whole life playing music for rich white people, and that's what he was seeing in the symphony. And he came to me and he asked if he didn't come to me, he just said he didn't want to do it. And then I think his mother introduced the idea to me, and I said, as long as you're happy, you've had too much pain in your life, And I want happiness in your life. So you do whatever you want, and I will support you unconditionally. And he's had a rock band for 5 years called The Matching Shoe. You can look their stuff up on YouTube. They don't have a Facebook, or they have a Facebook page, but they don't have a website anymore because they broke up about a couple months ago.
Mm.
And he's working on a few projects right now, and he actually worked with Tent Mission, working out on the streets, feeding people. And he and his girlfriend Heather have done a lot of stuff with BLM and civil rights. And so I wasn't raised by hippies, quite the opposite, actually. And I became a hippie.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's a good life, man.
It's
It's
good
a
life.
good life.
yeah, I sleep well.
So how would you kind of summarize, as you look at all these things that you're doing? Do they have a common mission? Do they each have their own mission, and then you have a mission of your own? Like what's your vision? What are you trying to do every day?
It's like the Elvis Costello song, "Every day I write the book." You know, I'm not too sure if I've really thought it at that deep of a level of what am I trying to accomplish. I mean, I can make a list right now. I'm trying to be a good husband, a good father, a good citizen, a good neighbor, a good listener, a good friend. I'm trying to be good on all levels of my life. I'm trying to be a good salesman. I'm trying to be a good representative. I'm trying to raise the awareness of the unhoused in our community. The richest nation in the world has people living in parks and down by rivers and behind flood walls. And, so that's really, it all comes together. And, when I'm out selling wine or sake, it's not all technical stuff you're talking about. Conversations come up, and when I can work in any of my interests into the conversation, I do it freely. Whether we're talking about music, I just said it now, it's like the Elvis Costello song. My whole life is like a lyric. People are talking to me, and I'm like, oh, well, that reminds me of, the Count Basie album where it had, and then, that's what my life is really taking the experience that I've had, distill it down into kindness and empathy, and try to learn. Sometimes I get asked to go to trainings and things like that, and they go, would you be okay to go to, like a de-escalation training or something? And I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Is I learn something? So, that's sort of, I still think I'm teachable. I still think there's a lot of things I could learn, but I want to teach other people too, whether it's about wine and sake, music, public service, being kind, being civil. I think there's, I try every day to do it. Doesn't mean I succeed, but I really try at it. And I think once you make that commitment to be nicer, kinder, more empathetic, you have to try less. It just works its way into your soul. So I'm by no means perfect. I got a lot of work to do on myself, but I address it on a daily basis.
We're all still learning.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying, man.
I'm trying to, it's like, sometimes I hear stuff that comes out of my mouth that might have come out of my parents' mouth, and we are diametric in the way we view the world. But still, you have to unlearn things. That's a common phrase you're hearing out there in the world right now. It's time to unlearn. I noticed you have the pronouns next to your name, and I thought to myself, maybe I should do that too, because I still don't understand it as well as I wish I did. With binary folks or transgender folks, I'm working with them, not with people that identify this way now, and they're people, and I need to respect them. And when I saw that you had, is that he, him, or his?
He, him. He, him.
I'm trying to understand that, and I want to represent myself, that all people know that I'm coming to them. That says a lot about you, Jerry, that I see that you took time to do that, and it inspired me. You dig? It's like it's something I've been thinking about, but I haven't done anything about it. It's like the day I put my BLM sign on my front yard, been meaning to do it, and why am I not going to that store and buying it? And I went and I bought it, and I thought, wow, check that box. And so today I'm going to check the box. I'm going to go to my Facebook page, and I'm going to put he, him there, and because it's going to raise a conversation with somebody. And there's going to be some, and I know there's going to be some jerks like, oh, you're one of them, or there's only two sexes. It's like, I know it's going to, but what will it do? It'll get people. They're not going to teach me anything, if that's where they're coming from, because I don't believe in what they're teaching. I don't believe it's true. But if they come at me and they see that I don't cower and that I have some real ideas on it, that's a small way to change the world, don't you think? Yeah. It
is. I mean, and it's super free, and I don't have to do it every day because it saves it for me. So
I'm doing it, brother. I saw that inspired me. As soon as I get off, that's the first thing I'm doing is changing it on my Instagram and on my Facebook, because you're there to put a message out in the world. That's what people go for, that to say what they believe in, what they stand in, or who they want you to think they are, whatever the reason they're there. So I want people to see Darryl Vennard, he, him. He's aware of this big issue in our society, and he's taken a side. Yeah. Not just being aware, taking a side.
What I've been told is that, we know you're a male, or whatever we think you're a male because they don't really know. And if you're not trans, why do you have to do that? And my response, and the response of my trans community that I hang out with, is because it normalizes it. It makes it okay to do it. It creates another safe space. So
you know what?
It's important.
That's really great. I mean, that's your attitude, and that's how you use it. I don't want to put it up there as a slogan, like, right. Okay, yeah, I'm so woke or whatever. I want to put it up there that says, okay, if you're uncomfortable with it, maybe you will have a conversation with me about it, because that's really where understanding comes from. Just being uncomfortable about, like, hey, I don't like Brussels sprouts my whole life. Then somebody gave me Brussels sprouts that had a little bacon and had some dried raisins in it. I'm like, wow, I love Brussels sprouts. So that's how I look at, like, understanding. If you ask that question, why, you have to listen to the answer.
This show is going to seem like a setup from yesterday's show. It's so serendipitous with some of the things I'm going to ask you in a minute. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, and by the way, it started raining outside and my sanctuary turns to blue light. So if your windows are rolled down, you're supposed to go roll them up, or something like that. So that's why it just got dark behind me. Yeah. What's something you do every damn day, though, to push all of this forward?
Well, I start my day with a loving act. I bring my wife breakfast in bed every morning. Okay, so that just reminds me that I love her. This is something that's important to her. She loves it. She's bragged to her sisters, her friends, her relatives, all that stuff. I start my day taking care of the person that's most important to me, and then it sort of sets the tone. I've done something nice. I get a thank you from her every morning. I mean, I come in, or when I come in with breakfast, she's expecting it, but she's just, she just thinks it's so nice. And when I'm out of town, that's the thing she misses, not my charming personality, I'm sure, but that's how I start my day. And I realized that not too long ago that I start my day with a positive act for someone else, not for myself. I don't get up. Now, true, it's not all altruistic. I'm going to drink that coffee too, but I plate things up. It's when it comes in, it looks like something that room service brought. I put care into it so it looks special, because I want people to feel like whatever I do, I do it for them. That I'm not just doing it for me. And that you cross that line a lot. Am I doing this for myself, for my own ego, and so I like the idea of starting the day with a kind act. I look at Facebook a lot. I like to see what people are saying and what kind of stuff they're pushing out into the ether. And I get inspired a lot, and I get upset a lot from it. But I do see a lot of positive affirmations out there. And I listen to music every day. And not only do I listen to it, I share it. Or I'll be talking with my wife, and like this morning, and I saw the line called said, "Get on up." And there's an old soul group from 1967 called the Esquires that had a hit called "Get On Up." And I love that 67 era of soul music,
I know that song. I love that song.
Yeah, I saw that band, and there's a guy that he's a baritone. All he says is "Get on up." That's his whole line of the song. I loved it. That's all the guy did. He didn't dance. He didn't sing. But I just said to my wife, "Have you ever heard this song?" And she hadn't heard it. She's from Southern Illinois, and I'm from Detroit. I mean, a lot of stuff I listened to as a kid, she was not listening to.
I thought everything went through Peoria.
Well, she's Southern Illinois, down by Benton, by Southern Illinois University, and that's very south. They say stuff like, "I'm fixing to go to the filling station," So it's a southern community. So nevertheless, my wife and I come from different parts of the country, and I call her Rebecca from Sunnybrook Farm, and I'm Darryl, Detroit. And but music is a big part of my day. I never go without it. I usually will listen throughout the day. I definitely start off with it.
Hey, I just looked at the time, and we got a cruise.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I do have a hard stop at 3. And again, thank you for coming on. Let's go into I want to tell you something. What I love about you and the way that you talk about what you do is that I do not get the sense that you are there to preach at and pray over and fix people. You are there walking with a friend. So that's right.
I need, if I can't fix myself, I work at it, but I still got pieces that don't fit where they belong. So yeah, it's really important when you work with the unhoused that, I have people that will say, "Hey, I'd like to go out there with you some Wednesday." And I'll say, "Yeah, but the thing about that is I'm not interested in field trips here. If you want to go out and you want to make a commitment, these are human beings. I'm not taking you to the zoo to see people that are different than you." But you'd be surprised how many people actually say to me, "Yes, I'd like to go out with you sometime. That'd be kind of cool."
Yeah.
So
we had a big situation with what was called the Back 40 here in Lansing throughout the winter. Yeah, and there were a lot of people going out and taking field trips and getting their photo ops and saying, "Hey, I showed up at the Back 40 to help." And yeah,
I brought 3 dozen donuts and a case of Gatorade. I'm a good person.
Yeah. So yesterday we daisy chained the shows together. Yesterday on the show, I had this musician. He has a master's degree from MSU, or actually 2 of them, music theory and composing, and he's doing a heavy metal rock opera called the Church of Quesadilla. All right. So, but his question to you is, what's something that you believe in that you don't question? Or something that you did believe in, you question it and kind of revised? Either type of answer that you want to ask or answer.
Well, we talked about it a lot. I believe in empathy. I want to go as far to say it's my religion, but it's a big part of my life, especially now. I think even like when someone says, "Hey, I'd like to go out there with you on outreach sometime," I think that's the opposite of empathy. You're not really trying to understand the way the other, you want to go out for your own curiosity. I want someone that says, "I want to go out and help these folks any way I can. And can you show me how to do it? Because I don't want to be, the white savior." I go out there. You should see some of these neighborhoods. I go out in the neighborhoods where it's 4 white guys show up giving food away. So they know the people that are the recipients of these acts, they know the difference. We've been out there when there's been a religious group asking us, hey, tell us where else we can go, and there's always that quid pro quo for the food. Know what I'm talking about. So it's like, that's what I believe in, is trying to be empathetic, really trying to understand how the other person is feeling. It's a goal. It's not always, and even in business, I find myself sometimes. I recently had to say to somebody, "I had no idea you were going through that. I'm a real big asshole for talking to you the way I did yesterday." And I felt like business-wise, I had the reason to talk to that guy, but I did not think about what else he had going on. That's a lack of empathy right there.
Yeah.
You know, you can do business and still be empathetic.
Yeah. So, when you talked about the person that wanted to go on the field trip, I thought you were going to have empathy for them, that they weren't enlightened enough to understand why they should want to go on that field trip.
Again, I probably should, and I don't think I'm cold about it when they say, "Hey, I'd like to go out there with you sometime," and I'd say, "Yeah, but we really don't do field trips to the poor." I would say something like, if you're really committed, there's ways that you can get involved, whether it's helping us get supplies or helping us get restaurants to donate food, or, saying that I can be there Monday or I could be there on Wednesday. Because the real thing is, we want to be consistent. There's a lot of people that make promises to the unhoused. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. So if I say I'm going to be there on Wednesday, I'm there on Wednesday, plain and simple. Like, I'm not going to be there next Wednesday. So when I'm out this week, I'll be letting all my friends in Carondelet Park and down on Bigham and all these different places I go, I'll tell them, hey, man, I'm not going to be here next week, but you're going to have some good food and I'll see you the week after.
So I don't have a guest identified yet for tomorrow unless somebody signed up right now. But what random question would you like to ask my guests for tomorrow?
Well, this is the question I have for everyone. What is it that stops you from helping people that have less than you?
And I love that question. How would you answer that question?
Not enough information of how to start. I'm not a religious person, and I felt guilty working. Most of the people that feed people out there are religious organizations, but they have a quid pro quo. We get, if someone's an addict and they need needles, religious organizations generally aren't going to give those people clean needles.
Right.
So it stopped me from being involved because I didn't share the same views of the other organizations. So as soon as I found out through another friend what he was doing, I got involved. I'm like, oh, there it is. That's what was stopping me. So that question really is, everyone should ask themselves, why am I not doing more for people that have less than me? I have so much. Some people will say, well, I really don't have so much, but we'll start with the 4 walls and a roof. Okay. So if you don't think you have so much, talk to somebody that sleeps in a park that all they want is a can of bug spray. That's there on their list of needs at the moment. So that's the question. What prevents you from helping people that have less than you?
I'm going to ask everybody that question, maybe for the rest of the 60 shows.
I hope you do.
Happiness, sadness, joy, or hope. Which word or combination of words would you like to talk about?
Joy. I have to think about the feeling of joy. I just said to somebody, I can't believe how much joy I felt at the time. I can't believe I can't remember it.
I'm really curious too, in addition to whatever you want to say, what's that? I thought you were going to say happiness because you had referred to it with your son earlier. Yeah. So I was predicting you were going to say that, but I'm really trying to examine the difference between happiness and joy.
Well, I think like happiness is more of a state of mind that you can probably have around. It's more accessible. But in my opinion, the feeling of joy, I think when we get someone permanent residence or we get the medical help, I feel like it's not happy. I want to say I'm so happy for them, but I have this feeling of joy, like there is still kindness out there. We contacted a doctor that is going down to help somebody out right now. That feeling it just goes through your whole body, and happiness is very similar, but I think you could be a happy person every day and not really have that feeling of joy. Joy's like a surprise.
That is the way you described it. Joy's a surprise. Yeah. That's exactly what I've said all along, but most of my guests say the complete opposite. That happiness is the surprise and joy is this thing that's constant.
Well, and I know disagree with them. Person, people generally would say, if they said, have you met Darryl Vennard? What's he like? Oh, he's a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. He's easy. But I recently, and I can't remember what it was, if it was something that happened with my kids or if it was something that happened with, our outreach program. But I remember saying something like, I really have this feeling of joy right now. So it's kind of interesting that you would ask me that question, because this just happened in the last week. Yet I can't remember what it was.
I'd be interested to follow up on that sometime.
I'll text
So
it. It'll come back to me.
I super have to go because I gotta go. I got a hard stop here.
Okay.
I really love this conversation.
Me
I
too.
wish we could go for about another hour, and maybe we'll do that sometime.
Sure. I'll come
And
back to this with you.
I appreciate you so much for telling us your story and participating and doing this at short notice. And thank you again, Jim, for finally getting you on, because we've been talking about it for several months, I'm sure of it.
Oh,
So,
there's one thing I forgot to say.
well, I was going to say, what would you like to take us out with? Does that fit?
Yes,
Or no,
okay,
go
yeah,
ahead and say it. Go
we
ahead
can
and say
go
it.
out with this. I worked in Lansing a couple of weeks ago with a sales rep that had a lot of relationships in restaurants. And he said to me, I think it's really great what you do. And I said to him, well, I could show you how you could feel great. And I said, you know all these same restaurants. I will send you a script. I will send you some letters. And you can just get on the phone and say, hey, this is Jerry from the Fledge calling. I know you've had a tough year, but I'm feeding people, and I'd like you to donate. You have to have a hard number. You don't say that's some food. If you could do individual meals, that'd be great. That's easier for us to distribute. But if you can put them in a container, we can put them in a smaller container. And I talked to a sales rep who told me he is going to do this, and I've since followed up with him, and he's still going to do it. He just hasn't done it yet. But I'm not going to let him off the hook, because he told me he wanted to do it. He thought I was great for doing it. And I'm going to show other people that have these relationships how they can use those relationships to help their community.
Hey, and I'd be willing to jump in on that to help him kind of figure out how to distribute it, where to distribute it to, and all of those paths too.
Well,
So,
I'm sure we'll be working together, Jerry.
all right. Hey, thank you so very much. I'll call you in about an hour,
Okay.
and you're amazing.
Well,
You're
that's
amazing.
nice for you to say. I like your work you're doing too, brother. I'll see you next time I'm in the mitten, okay?
Okay, for sure.
All right, peace.
All right, peace. Thank you, Darryl.
All right.
See ya. All right, everyone. That's every damn day. See you tomorrow at 2. I will have a guest. Thanks again, Darryl.